Hello, and welcome to day 5 of the 12 days of Chocolatey. Thanks for joining us again, everyone. Hope you had a good weekend. A quick recap for those of us who've tuned in, but also for the benefit of those of us joining for the first time. The 12 days of Chocolatey is a 12-day event, of course, put on by the Chocolatey team, where for an hour every day, we're going to give you a little bit of Chocolatey goodies. And what that means is talks, webinars, discussions, and Q&A, some new feature announcements, and most importantly, if you pay attention, the opportunity to win a prize every day. So today, we are going to be talking about building packages. And for this talk, I have the distinct pleasure of being joined by our very own Stephen Valdinger, aka Stevie Coaster. Hey, Stevie. Oh, 1 second. I don't think he's tuned in yet. There we go. How you doing?
Good.
Rock on. Let me bring you into the chat here in a second. So Stephen here is our wonderful senior solutions / support engineer, and he's going to be taking us through a lot of the beginning of this talk, and then I will hop in and show you some of the other parts of it. So I'll bring him in a second here, but I'm just going to go through the agenda and then I'll hand over. So first of all, here we go. We're going to pull that up, and yeah, okay, so we're going to start with building some packages from scratch. So Stevie's going to show you the open source way, and a lot of that is going to be building a simple package first of all, and then building a package with external resources, i.e. more complicated or a large package. And then we're going to hop into Package Builder, the Chocolatey for Business feature, and I'll show you sort of the quick way to do everything in as little as 5 seconds. And that includes the Package Builder GUI, as well as the context menus built into that. And then I'll also show you how to do that from the command line approach, and a quick PowerShell script, just a for each loop, essentially. Take everything in a folder that's an installer and turn it into a Chocolatey package, nice and easy. And then we're going to show you a little bit about the community repository, specifically the Chocolatey community repository and how that works as an individual. And then as an organization, we're going to show you how you can harness the community repository using Package Internalizer. And of course, at the end, we're going to give you some links for further exploration. And at the end, if we have questions, if we have time, we're going to do the conclusions and Q&A. And of course, probably have that survey at some point that gets you the chance to win some prizes. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over and hand over to Stevie. Hey, Stevie.
Right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, everyone. I'm going to switch over my feed here. And let's start talking about building packages, shall we? So out of the box, Chocolatey gives you a really easy way to start creating your own packages. Perhaps you have your own internal installers, MSIs, EXEs, zips, scripts, binaries, whatever you want that you might want to create packages from. So to get started doing that, Chocolatey has a command called the Choco new command. And what this does is build a new package. So you say Choco new, and then you give it the name of your package. In this case, I'm just going to call it Bob. Press enter. And I'm in the C packages directory already. So what this is going to do is create a package called Bob in this directory. I'm then going to invoke item, the current directory, and I'm going to shortcut here and say II period for the current directory, and II is the alias for invoke item. And what that's going to do is open up my Explorer window to that Bob package. And if I look inside of there, Chocolatey has gone ahead and shimmed out all of the stuff that I potentially will need to create this package. I've got a README file that can be stuffed into, if you're going to store this in source control for your repository, so you know what this package is, what it does, etc. All that kind of stuff. You've got your new spec file, which is all the metadata about a package. And if we take a quick look at that, you can just see that things like ID and version and other things, there's a lot of stuff commented out in here, and we have a lot of comments throughout all of our scripts generated by default that explain to you what each of the fields means, what they do, and whether or not you really need them. If you're maintaining a package for the community repository, a lot of this stuff is needed. If it's just something that you're going to do internally, things like a license URL, a mailing list URL, project source URL, things like that aren't necessarily needed in those situations, but from a community maintainer perspective, they are, because all of that information is surfaced on the community repository, the package page, specifically so that you can get those quick links, etc. So that's what the new spec file looks like. We've also got this.
Hop in for a sec, Stevie, just to let you know. So it seems like the refresh is happening a little bit slower, but as long as you guys can see the screen okay and the text, just let us know in the chat if you have any troubles. Sorry.
Okay, cool. We've also got this to-do.txt file that kind of explains all the steps you'll need to take to create a fully working package. And then if we look in this tools folder, we've shimmed out all of the different Chocolatey installation and uninstallation and before modify scripts that you might use for this particular package. And if we just take a quick look at the Chocolatey install.ps1, for example, you'll see that there's a lot of code comments in here. We're very verbose about internal documentation inside of the script so that you have all of the information that you need while you're creating your first package to be successful in doing it. If you're doing it with a URL, what's that URL? Put it here. If you're doing it with a local file, maybe you've got a really small binary that you have the rights to redistribute as part of your package, you can put that inside of there. And I'm going to kill my Slack because it's going to pop up over there. And you've also got other information like your checksums, your silent arguments, your valid exit codes, et cetera, et cetera. And then you've also got documentation down here to a lot of other Chocolatey helper functions that you can use as part of your packages as well. And we'll dive into using a couple more of those once we get to building a large package. But by and large, this is all written for you. As soon as you run Choco new, whatever your package name is, we'll shell out everything you need to be successful, and it's very, very well documented as you walk through it to give you all the information that you need to build that package. You can also go out to docs.chocolatey.org, and let's just go over there now. Should have had this one preloaded. And of course, it's going to be slow while I load this up. There we go. And if you just use our search box here for create packages, that first link there will take you to the online documentation on how to create packages. So it's really quick. Docs.chocolatey.org. Just use our search box, find create packages, and there's some more additional information for creating packages available on that website as well. I'm just going to minimize this out of the way. And I think we're done inside of here. So I'll go ahead and close Notepad++, get rid of this. We'll minimize this out of the way. And then we'll go into Visual Studio Code and have a quick look around. So I've got a folder called 12 days with some code and examples in here. We've created a GitHub repository, which we'll have a link to at the end of this presentation, that you can all go. All of the code that I've got written here is available in that GitHub repository so that you can take it and noodle over it later and kind of wrap your head around things and understand what's going on. So I've got, as a simple package example, I've gone ahead and created this package for 7-zip. And if we look inside of here, I've went ahead, I've gone out and I've downloaded the 7-zip MSI installer. And I've written a Chocolatey install.ps1 script for managing the installation of this MSI. And I've used very little information to actually create that package. So if you remember what we saw just from running Choco new Bob and the Chocolatey install script that was generated there, there was a lot of code comments inside of that script. When you take all those comments away, you can see that there's very little information or very little code that you need to actually write for a very simple package. In this case, this MSI. So we're setting our error action preference. We're getting the location of this tools folder. We're setting our file location to our installation binary. In this case, it's going to be inside of this tools folder, and it's named 7z1900.msi. So I've defined that here. And then inside of this package args hash table, we're defining what our Chocolatey package name is. Chocolatey ships with a lot of really helpful environment variables, so you don't have to really know the name of your package or type in the name of your package here. You can just use environment variables, things like Chocolatey package name, Chocolatey package version. Those are all environment variables that you can use inside of your packaging. Our unzip location, we're not necessarily going to use this particular aspect in this package, but it doesn't hurt to have it there. It's just going to ignore it, and it's there by default. We're going to set our file type to be an MSI, and what that does is it tells under the hood what process to run. So as part of this, by setting the file type to MSI, under the covers, we're going to launch msi.exec.exe. And what we're going to do is pass it the MSI to run. And we're also going to pass it some silent arguments as well. MSIs are really not overly complicated. They're pretty much all the same bog standard QN, no restart, LV, and then we give it the path to a log file. And you'll notice here that we've got the path is built from the temp directory, the package name, package version, etc. And for some reason that went away. Environment, the package name. All right, there we go. And then at the end, we've got a couple of things that are commented out here. Those came from the template. So if you have additional MSI properties that you want to pass to the installation of this MSI, you absolutely can. You can just come in here inside of after the log file and before the closing quote, you can put those things in here like all users equals 1, etc., etc. So if you want to do additional customization to the MSI, you can do it there. We give it some valid exit codes. These are defaults 0, 3010, 1641. Those are standard Windows exit codes. And then we pass that hash table to our helper function, which is install Chocolatey install package. There are two different versions of this function. There's install Chocolatey install package, which is used when you have the binary that you need to install or that you're wishing to install included inside of the packaging. So in this case, I've stuffed this 7-zip MSI inside of the tools folder. I don't have to reach out anywhere and download it at runtime. So I can use install Chocolatey install package to do that work. If I wanted to go out to a URL and download a binary at runtime, at that point, I'm going to use install Chocolatey package. And what that has is additional logic inside of it that goes out and downloads that URL to a location of your choosing. Typically, that's the tools folder or the cache location set inside of your Chocolatey config.
Hey, Stevie.
And it runs that. Yeah.
Just real quick, it seems like it's getting a little bit choppy and laggy. So a couple of folks have recommended, including our internal chat, that you might want to just turn off your video because your webcam feed, because maybe that's making it a little bit slower. So,
I can do that.
And you're sending less data. Yeah, let's try that.
I can do that. All right, there we go. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm noticing a slower connection in Restream as well. So it might be my internet connection at the minute. So let's see what happens with this. So that's, at this point, this is all we need to create this Chocolatey package. If I were done and we go out here, let's go grab this path. Now this is going to fail because I've not edited my new spec and there's comments and things like that in there that aren't valid. They won't pass the new spec validation. But at this point, once I have my package built and all of my code written that I want, I can come in here and say Choco Pack, and I can give it the path to my new spec file. And if this were a valid new spec and I ran this, it would say generated Chocolatey package, blah, 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 blah. It would give me the full path to the nupkeg that gets created as part of this process. And as you can see, I don't have a valid version inside of my new spec file. If I wanted to really quick, I could probably go in there and change just that aspect. And let's just call it 0.1.0 for the sake of a demo. And rerun this. And at this point, it should generate. I don't think there's anything else blocking. Yeah. So at this point, we have our 7-zip package 010 successfully created. Now, you probably don't want to use 010. What I would recommend doing is looking at the properties of your installer, go to details, and there should be in here, if they have put it somewhere, I don't see the version of this. Well, it's not on this particular installer. You'll probably have to use the website in this example. But you would put the actual version of the software into that version section of the new spec file. But that's creating a really, really, really simple package. And that works for, as I said, MSIs, executables, if you want to just package some scripts or a standalone binary or maybe a zip file. Chocolatey is flexible. We're a universal package manager for Windows. So if you can dream it up in PowerShell and it makes sense to manage that as a Chocolatey package, go ahead and do that. So if it can be even as simple as, I want to manage setting some registry keys on a system, have an install script that sets those registry keys and have an uninstall script that uninstalls or unsets those registry keys. You can manage that sort of workflow as a Chocolatey package as well. The next thing we'll look at is a more complicated example. And in this example, we're going to look at Visual Studio. Now, Visual Studio, as everybody knows, it's not just a single installer setup.exe or setup.msi file that you run and it installs Visual Studio. There's a whole lot of other files and file folders that are included as part of that installation. And depending on what you want to actually install, it can be really, really, really big. NuGet has this thing where it doesn't like packages to be over 2 gigabytes. And at that point, things start to become unstable. Let's call it unstable. When you attempt to download and run that particular package. So in the cases where you're working with those really large installers, what we recommend is setting up some kind of a raw repository or a binary repository, depending on your repository server vendor. The language is different. Here in Sonatype Nexus, it's called a raw repository. And if we look inside of this repository, I've got 2 different flavors of this. I've got an ISO that I've created, and I've got a zip file that I've created. I've taken the Visual Studio installer. I've created a layout that includes just the .NET development environment for desktop application development. And I've created that layout and I've put that up as an ISO and a zip inside of this raw repository so that we can use that as examples in our packaging. So the first thing we'll look at is creating the ISO-based Chocolatey package. And I'm going to close a couple of things out. I'm just not going to save this stuff here. Scroll all the way to the top of this window, and I'm going to move this out of my way so I can see a little better.
So, hey, Stevie.
Yeah.
Just want to frame this conversation a little bit. So you walked through sort of a basic version of a package, and now you're hopping into a package with external resources, like a large binary that you hold in a binary repository. Okay.
Correct. Yeah, this would be a large package where the binary is outside of the package itself. You have to reach out to download that package or that asset at runtime.
Yeah, so it's a separate step almost to pull that down.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the same kind of rules apply here. I'm defining some metadata, some variables for the script, package name, file type. I've gone ahead and grabbed the checksum for this particular one, and what's the URL to my asset. In this case, I've got the URL to the vslayout.iso file defined in here.
Cool. So as long as you can get to your binary repository.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now I've got Nexus set up with anonymous authentication here. So anybody that can hit this URL will be able to download this installer at runtime. Now there may be cases where you want to do something like some custom headers that have some authentication or something like that in there. You can do that sort of stuff. This is PowerShell. Anything is possible. But you just need to take into account security when you're doing those sorts of things. You might want to set up some package parameters, for example, that allow you to pass in a username and password and use package parameter sensitive on the command line such that those credentials don't get logged into the chocolatey.log. So they're not sitting around on disk after the fact. And that will allow you to build a credential object that you can then use to authenticate to your URL or your repository server to download that binary at runtime.
Right on.
So there are options, but to keep it kind of simple here, anonymous authentication is turned on, and anybody that has this link can download this ISO.
Rock on. Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify. Keep going.
Yep, absolutely. And then I'm just defining a couple things like the actual ISO file and where I want to download this file to. And I'm creating that directory if it doesn't exist. And then I'm using another helper function called getChocolateyWebFile, which just downloads this particular asset to the location on disk that I specify. So I'm saying I want to store it in this ISO path from this URL. Here's my checksums, so that once it downloads it, it validates that that is the correct file. Now, in the case of an ISO, we can't just extract that somewhere and use it. But thankfully, newer versions of PowerShell, and I will preface that this is a later version of PowerShell method of doing things. The mount disk image commandlet can take an ISO and mount it as a disk. So that's what this is going to do here. And then for the install path, what we do is grab the drive letter from that ISO mount, and then we set our path to be whatever that drive letter is. So in the case of this, it's going to mount it as E. So I'm going to push location to that E drive, and then everything is going to be available to me from there. So I can just reference it as I normally would. So I define what my installer is. That's that E drive, and then vssetup.exe. Now there's a couple VS Code or Visual Studio is interesting because there's a bunch of certificates that come along with the installation of that. So here's one way to do it. You can do just call start process a bunch of times with certmanager.exe, and then the name of the store, etc. Or since it's just PowerShell, this is another way to do the exact same thing. I have all of my arguments in hash tables, and I just loop over them and call start process and splat those hash tables. So I just wanted to show that this is PowerShell. You can do whatever you want inside of these packages as long as it's valid PowerShell. And then after all of that work, we've downloaded our asset, we've mounted the ISO, we've figured out its drive letter, we've installed the certificates required. We can then install Visual Studio. So remember when I said earlier the install Chocolatey install package will install a local asset? Under the hood, that's calling start Chocolatey process as admin. So I'm just going directly to that function here and saying start Chocolatey process as admin, and then I'm passing it. These are my silent installation arguments, and then this is the executable that I want to run. And then once I'm all done, Visual Studio has been installed, I'm going to give you your shell back, go back to wherever it was you were prior to working on the installer. I'm going to unmount that ISO, and I'm going to remove that download path from the system to clean up your disk space. In the case of this ISO, it's about 5 gigs with a standard .NET layout. And that's how you would do it with an ISO file. As mentioned, you can also do that with a zip file if you wanted to. So we'll take a look at that example here, and it's a little simpler to do it with a zip, I will admit. So I'm going to do 2 helper functions that are available inside of Chocolatey. I'm going to set up first my temporary directory where I want to unzip things. And then I'm going to do kind of the same exact thing where I'm going to download the zip file. It's got its checksum, so it validates that what I download is correct. And then I also set the unzip location. And then the install Chocolatey zip package will download that asset, that zip file at runtime, and it will unzip it to the location specified here. So that's exactly what we've done here. Now, it's kind of the exact same thing as the ISO at this point. I don't have to go into the drive letter or anything like that. I can just say that my installer is now at that unzip location, and it's vssetup.exe, and I can do the same thing. I have to install those certificates, and then I have to install Visual Studio. And also, after the fact, you would probably want to do a remove item on the unzip location as well. I don't have that in here, but you could do a remove item unzip location. Oops. There. But that's how you would create a large package. So any package that you have that's relatively big or that you don't feel comfortable by adding the binaries to the package, like I said, that really breaks at the 2 gig mark. So you're relatively safe underneath that to have everything in the package to keep things simple. But if you've got internal rules that say you can't do that, or all packages have to have the binary separated from the package for whatever reason, these same rules apply.
Awesome. Hey, so Stevie, just a quick point to note that actually Paul mentioned to me a second ago. An important note of distinction is, if you're using the community repository directly, then you've got you're just pulling down whatever you can right from there. But this is specifically when you have your own internal repo, you can add additional layers of that, whatever you want to do with PowerShell on it, on top of it. Yeah,
yep, absolutely.
Really awesome.
Yep,
cool.
Absolutely. So that's the hard way.
Yeah,
to create packages.
Right on, definitely. I mean, so if you guys followed along, it's a lot of the details there. in terms of doing it in the open source manner, the hard way, sort of creating your own package from scratch. So thank you for that, Stevie. That was
Absolutely.
awesome. And let's hop over, and I'm just going to zoom into me, and we'll talk a little bit about doing it the easy way, or the easy button, as I like to call it. So swapping over here again, folks, if something slows down here or you can't see clearly, then please do let me know, and I'll remove my video feed from the bottom. So let's talk about Package Builder as a feature of Chocolatey for Business. So the big part of this here is the most important message is it automates a lot of this, so it allows you to add that value quickly. And I'm just going to make sure that I have Chocolatey for Business here. I'm just going to type Choco on the command line and see, yep, I have the business license installed on this endpoint. So now I can just right-click any of these EXEs or MSIs, these installers, and then I get this nice context menu built right in. So I have a Create Chocolatey package with a GUI and without a GUI. So let's do the with a GUI first, just to show you what that looks like. And I'll click this here, and you can see you get the Package Builder GUI up here with Chocolatey for Business. Now, the important thing is I will mention that all of this stuff is optional, and I'll explain why in a second. You have the location of the binary here. Of course, you have a 64-bit binary you can define optionally as well. You have some additional silent arguments. Of course, you can add here if you want to optionally. You have the ability to check override silent arguments, other radio buttons here or checkboxes. Over here now on the other tab, you'll see we have a new spec information. So this is the new spec file, the XML file that Stevie showed off there. Specifically, it's your metadata, so your version, title, author information. Now, you see a lot of fields here and there. The important thing to remember is all this is optional with Chocolatey for Business, because Package Builder is a feature of Chocolatey for Business. You have the ability to automatically have Package Builder go in and inspect that exe MSI, automatically figure out all those silent arguments for that specific installer type. So really powerful stuff here. So I could just click generate here. That's one approach. You can definitely do it that way. I usually show off the other approach to this, which is the non-interactive way. And so I right click here to the Create Chocolatey package, the context menu, and I just do it, create it without GUI. It's the exact same process on the back end as if I click generate there. But you'll see when this kicks off here, it's going to take it less than 5 seconds there to generate that file. So I hopped into the folder here. Now you can see I have that NUPKG file or NUPKG or new package, whichever way you want to say it. And that's specifically that a Chocolatey package now. And I can simply now right click this new package file and go upload push. And now I have package uploader here as a feature as well. I have my repository. This is my Nexus repo already defined. I just pick it in the dropdown and I click upload. So in that time, you can see basically in 5 seconds, I generated the package. In less than 5 seconds, I pushed it up into my repository and I'm done. That's it. So my package is ready to be consumed from all my endpoints. Now let's dig in and show you a little bit of the value that Chocolatey for Business and Package Builder added for you. So I'm just going to extract this out. And again, the good news with any new package file is, it is that format where you can just extract it out. It's basically a fancy zip file, so you can use any extraction program to do that. And I did that here, and we'll hop in and we'll take a look at the different pieces of this Chocolatey package. So over here, we have this new spec. I'll open it up in Notepad++, and we'll see we have, of course, XML here. So this is the data here showing exactly what's inside this. I'll zoom in a little bit because it looks a little small for folks. Let me know if anything's too small, and then I will happily change my view. So you can see there's some version, title, author information that Package Builder pulled out automatically from inspecting that exe. So we don't have to fill this in. We can add to this if we want to. We don't need to. In the tools folder here, you'll see we have the binary itself, the executable. So it's included that, of course, Package Builder. And right here, this is where all the PowerShell goodness is, this Chocolatey install.ps1. So let's take a look at this. So you will see here that Package Builder, as a feature of Chocolatey for Business, what it did was it basically wrote the code for you. So you have the exe, of course, that's been identified, but specifically the installer type gets identified. So up here, you'll see inno setup. So inno setup, Wise, install shield, all the popular installer formats. Chocolatey for Business Package Builder is going to automatically recognize that for you and automatically build your silent arguments and populate that information there, including valid exit codes for you based on that specific installer type. So if it was Wise, if it was install shield, it would be different. In addition, of course, it's going to calculate that checksum for that binary. And at the end here, we have all of this gets passed as a hash table for you PowerShell folks that remember that, as package arguments here down here. And here's the helper function that Stevie was mentioning earlier, install Chocolatey install package. So that helper function is automatically built in, and that's going to populate that with the package args, and you're good to go. So the good news is you're done here. You didn't need to do anything manually, but if you wanted to customize this, as Stevie shown before, now you have really simple ways to do this built right into your UI as well. So if I wanted to add a files folder, throw a config file, an answer file, maybe even a license file in there, I could do that here. I could create a files directory and just throw those files into this directory. And then I'd simply come back here, and this is PowerShell, folks. So if you can write it in PowerShell, you can add it to a Chocolatey package, whether that's a copy item or remove item command for those files, or it's a set item property to flip a registry key, or you could even restart a service if you wanted to with restart service command. Anything you need to do, any organization-specific customization as well. So if I did that and I saved out this file, nice and simple to do. All I need to do is hop back up here one folder and go to that new spec we talked about earlier, right-click it, and compile that Chocolatey package. So that's going to do a Chocopack command. It's the same as a Chocopack command at a command line. For all of these different approaches, we have a command line approach, so you can build this into a pipeline, and we have the GUI approach to make it friendly for all levels of administration. Like, you have frontline admins, help desk admins, and you also have more advanced PowerShell folks who want to build this into pipeline tools. So we can simply compile that Chocolatey package, and that's going to give us a new version of this new package file with our organization-specific customizations built right into it. Now we can push that up to our repo, and now we have a fully fledged, customized, organization-specific version of our package ready to go. And it didn't take us very long at all. So that's the real benefit and sort of the quick value that the package builder allows you to add. Because we as sysadmins, a lot of times we don't have a lot of resources, and we're being forced to manage more and more packages and updates to packages all the time. And so this is really that's why we call it the easy button, because it's so much easier and so much quicker to just generate out a package that way. So really important point to make there. So I've kind of discussed a little bit about package builder. That's one approach to creating your packages, right? The other approach is, of course, the community repository. So let's talk about that community repository and package internalizer for a second. So package builder, as we talked about, this is a lot of the stuff that I already mentioned. It allows you to automatically create that packaging from a zip installer zip in as little as 5-10 seconds. For 70%, up to 80%, I'd say, it usually works for most installer types. And for the ones that it doesn't, you can customize them a little bit more and Chocopack those in and keep going. And supports the passing of checksums, of course, and allows customization, as we said. So let's talk about this community repository. So this big community repository that we have has over 8,000 packages up there now. So we really, really are in debt to our maintainers, our great Chocolatey community who continues to dedicate many hours to sort of building these pipelines and building these packages to come in to Chocolatey. So a quick recap for those folks who are new to the community repository. So it is at chocolatey.org/packages. Thank you, Maurice. I see you in there. So it is community feed, right? And it is community maintained. So we have a set of maintainers. Some of us work at Chocolatey, some of us are in the maintainer community. And it has been moderated as of October 2014. So every package that goes up and every update that goes up to the community repository gets reviewed by a moderation queue. And so that moderation, what does that entail? So we have a automation called Package Verifier that goes through and installs and uninstalls a package to make sure that it functions properly, first of all. And once it passes that, then we go through Virus Total. Virus Total is going to scan against 50 or 60 different antiviruses to make sure there's nothing malicious in that package. In an additional step to that after that is that then actually a human moderator. So one of the people in our maintainer team, one of the fine folks there who put in a lot of extra hours, which we appreciate, they will actually go through and verify that that package is following PowerShell best practices, is a sound package, is good code and nothing malicious or nefarious else is in there, and that the standards are being met. So then and only then does a package make it into the community repository. So there is a quite extensive moderation queue. And so usually the most common complaint we get from maintainers is that the package didn't make it in. So a lot of organizations have concerns about this, about the security that we go into. You can go onto our docs and our website and read all the details there. There's plenty of information on the stuff that we go through to verify this. Now, why do we say that organizations should avoid using this directly? So you've heard the expression trust but verify before. A lot of organizations would like the ability to bring in a package and sort of vet it from their own security teams, etc. That's an important piece of this. And that's where a tool like Package Internalizer would really benefit you, because you're bringing that package in, taking all those external web resources, bringing them offline, recompiling that package so you have it internally, so you're not dependent on an external version of that. So the important piece here is you don't have to do this necessarily, but we recommend it. It's a good idea to internalize those packages and have your security team maybe check against them. Put them into a test repository. You have a test instance and a production instance of your repository. Once the security team signs off on it, or you've tested it against a few lab VMs, then you promote that package from a test repository to a production repository. And it becomes really easy to do that with something like Package Internalizer. Another important point to mention with the community repository that I think we've touched on a little bit before is you will hit those rate limits, right? As an it's sort of an individual use open source model, right? And at the end of the day, it's a public feed. So you are subject. We have to keep it running. We have to keep it up. We get over 80 to 90 million hits a day on the community repository, which is crazy. So with that amount of traffic, we have to balance it somehow. And so we definitely have rate limits in place. So at you 1 to 5 machines when you're trying to install like yourself, you're going to be usually fine. But then as soon as you start hitting those rate limits of trying to install on a bunch of machines at the same time, that's where we have organizations using Chocolatey for Business, specifically for that purpose, and internalizing their packages with Package Internalizer so they don't hit up against those limits. Let's just swap over and show you what Package Internalizer looks like here as well. Another important point to mention with Package Internalizer, and another benefit, I should say, is that you have the ability of not being subject to the same distribution rights that we are. As a community repository, we do have legal distribution rights on those individual binaries. Those belong to the vendors themselves. So the vendors have that on their own servers. So when I go to install Google Chrome, if I do a Choco install Google Chrome, what's actually happening is it's going and reaching out to the community repository, pulling down that package, first of all, the Chocolatey package, then it's reaching out to the Google servers for the individual Chrome binaries. So it's having to do that every time. So if you're installing on 20, 30, 40, 100 machines, it's going to reach out to that Google download server every single time. And, if they had any rate limits in place, or if it's not available for any reason, then you're going to run into that. Now, if you have Chocolatey for Business, you are going to have the benefit of some CDN feeds, so you do have the package being more available. But still, your best bet is always going to be to internalize that package. So, whoa, okay, it's getting away from me. So let's do that and show you what that looks like. So I'm just going to do a Choco download here, and I'm going to run Google Chrome as my package. And then I'll simply just pass the -- internalize parameter or argument here. And I'll just kick this off and show you what that looks like. So Package Internalizer is going to go out, reach out to the community repository, see that that package actually has a couple of web resources. So these dl.google.com URLs you see here for these binaries, it's found them. So it automatically downloads them for me and recompiles this package. So now that it's recompiled, I can hop back in here to my packages folder and see that I have the Google Chrome package here. So that's great. It's 138 megs. So I'm pretty sure that it has the additional binaries in it. But let's go ahead and extract that out anyway, just to prove this out. So I'll show you this here. Now we've hopped in, we can see that tools folder now has a files directory in it. And that files directory now has the 32 and 64-bit binaries, including right inside it. So now you've got the ability to have that just included. Package Internalizer did that for us. It's also rewritten a couple of lines here in Chocolatey install.ps1. And you can see these two URL values now. They used to be those URL values that I showed you when it was internalizing. Now those are split path commands pointing to the local location inside this package for that for the installers themselves as a binary. So that's great. So definitely Package Internalizer is doing its job here of internalizing that package. An additional thing, a little bit of an Easter egg feature for Package Internalizer is, dependency management. So we have a lot of packages that have dependencies. As administrators, you have to worry about things like Java runtime environment being installed in the right version, or .NET Framework being a specific version. And that dependency becomes something that you have to define in a lot of tools manually. The great thing about internalizing a package is maintainers have already done the hard work of figuring that out for you. So in this case, the maintainer for the Google Chrome package has defined a Chocolatey core extension. It's a common extension a lot of Chocolatey folks use when they're building packages. So because this package has been defined as a dependency to Google Chrome, when Chocolatey goes to install the package, Google Chrome as a package, it's going to make sure that that first package is installed by default. Chocolatey will do that in any environment. Now, Chocolatey for Business and Package Internalizer, what that's going to do in addition to this is it's going to find those packages that are dependencies in the new specs, and then it's going to go ahead and not only download and internalize your target package, but it will also internalize your dependent package as well. So now I can push both of these up, right click and push them up into my repo, or do a Choco push up into my repo. And I can make sure that I have a package and dependencies in my internal repo. Now I can robustly and reliably deploy this against tens, hundreds, thousands of nodes because they're only going to my internal repo. And Stevie put a little thing in the chat to say as well, you can ignore dependencies if you just want the target package as well. There are plenty of arguments you can pass and parameters. So we encourage you to check out the docs and explore, especially our new doc site, because it's really easy to search against. But yeah, you can definitely ignore dependencies if you need to. Sometimes I know the Adobe Reader package has a bunch of KBs that it uses as dependencies. Some folks don't always want to include those. They are security patches and required for the compliance, but it's up to you, however you want to do that. So those are two approaches to this, package builder and package internalizer, both ways to create packages with Chocolatey for Business, but you can see how easy it becomes from those perspectives to be able to generate packages and not have to worry about all these additional things like dependencies or going, for package builder side, when you do a Choco new in open source, you got to go and figure out all that stuff and build that manually. And we've had feedback from a lot of our users that it can take a couple of days to a week even sometimes just to build a single package if it's really complicated and they're trying to figure that all out. And find out what the silent args are that you're passing to stuff like that. I'm going to circle back just a little bit because I was just making sure we had enough time. One of the features that I did want to touch on was the programmatic way to interact with Package Builder and Package Internalizer. So if I wanted to, I have a folder of installers here. So I have 3 EXEs and 1 MSI in here. It's called installers, this folder. So you can also programmatically interact with Package Builder and Internalizer, of course. So if I go into Package Builder, for show off Package Builder specifically, if I go into the installers folder here and I hop in, I'm going to do an ls and I'm going to just list, this is the same as alias for get child item, and see that I have those 4 installers here. So what I can do now is I can simply use some PowerShell code. So this is very basic get child item, and the get child item is going to allow me to just pull everything from this folder that's an installer. Looks like my video is getting grainy, folks. Maybe I should hide my preview. Okay, all right. I'm gonna just hide myself for the time being. Let's hope that clears up in a second. Just let me know in the feedback in the chat if you can, if that's still being a problem. If y'all can see the screen okay, I'll just wait for some confirmation before going forward. So I'm just going to paste the code in here anyway, and then we can talk about it. Hopefully the screen refreshes. So all I'm doing is I'm taking this folder here, and I'm doing a get child item on it. I'm just listing all the items that are inside it, and I'm filtering with the include MSIs and EXEs. And that is what I'm passing over here to a for each object loop, which is basically going through, and for each of these MSIs and EXEs it finds, it's going to do a Choco new. So it's going to use Package Builder to create those packages. And it's going to do the build package parameter with the output directory being C packages, that folder. So if I kick this off here, it's just going to run, and we'll see how quickly it does it. So there you go. It's firing off. It's done 7-zip now. And now it's just going to run through and generate the other packages. So you can see how quickly, if I hop back to the packages folder, there you go. So 7-zip's been generated, Git's been generated. There we go, and Google Chrome has been generated. But we already downloaded that as well, and and Notepad++. There we go. So that's how simply, if you just had a folder of installers, let's say you had a file share where you keep installers as a company or another organization, you can literally just point the code to that folder and just let it run, and just automatically have it push up. And I have some code here that'll also push this up to the to my repository as well. So I'll paste that in here as well. We can walk through it. So let's clear the screen. I wanted to do. There we go. Over here, I'm just doing a get child item again on the C packages folder, and I'm just saying for each of those packages, go ahead and push it up into my repository. Now I've already saved the API key for my repository, so that's where I don't need to do much else here. So, oh, actually it's complaining. That's because I put the wrong URL in there. Sorry, folks. We're doing it live. So I will just go Choco server here instead of the full URL because that's the other URL we use. That works. Here we go. Okay, so there you go. It's pushing them up. So you know we're doing it live because when we get errors, we fix them on the screen. So there you go. So now it's pushing these packages up into my repo as well. So not only did I generate those packages for those 4 packages, I can also script the pushing of them up into my repository as well. And again, you can build this into pipelines as well on your end. You can use tools like Jenkins to do that if you'd like. And once this is done here, I'm just going to go up into here and show you in Chocolatey internal. It has a bunch of packages here already, but you can see that Git got pushed up. You can see that Notepad++ got pushed up. And I'll expand the folder, and you actually see in this repository, we've got that package that just got pushed up as well. So that's awesome. So again, many different ways to do this. You can do this from a command line approach as well as GUI approach, but package builder and package internalizer are going to be our big takeaways there for 2 approaches to that. And of course, in the open source version, as Stevie showed you, you can definitely take a look at that as well as an approach for this. So just a couple of links here to share with you while we have you here. I know we're running up against the clock, but we've included some links here just for your further watching, and I'll just reference them here and talk to them, and you can also take a look later too. So Chocolatey for Business features, of course, that highlights Package Builder and Internalizer. That's our feature videos series. So ch0.co/C4B videos. That's going to be where you go to take a look at what features Chocolatey for Business has, and that includes Package Builder and Internalizer that I showed off today. All the code from today's talk is going to be at ch0.co/12dayscode. And that's a repo that you put up, right, Stevie?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so we'll just make sure that that's available to the public, and we'll reroute that URL to a different location if it moves in the future. But just because this is going to be up in perpetuity in Facebook and YouTube, so we just want to make it a nice and easy URL for you to remember for later. So hopping over here, let's talk about the 12 days of Chocolatey. So as you know already, this was Package Builder today. We hope you got some value out of this talk, building packages with Package Builder and also with Package Internalizer. We've got a bunch of sessions planned here as well in the future, so hope we can join us for those. If you want to go back and rewatch any of those, again on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook or even Periscope, many platforms. We're finding the Periscope and Twitter feeds are a little bit delayed and grainy. So if you're using Twitter, we might suggest you switch over and check out the YouTube or Twitch feeds as well, because you'll probably see a clearer picture. You can always go back and rewatch anyway. So a really big day tomorrow. QDE, we've had a lot of questions about it so far. So that's a really big one. So we really do want, hope you tune in for that one, because that's going to be very informative, and we think we're going to have a lot of questions and feedback there. And that's going to be Stevie as well. He'll be able to show off how to stand up QDE very quickly. The quick deployment environment can be a real easy way to stand up Chocolatey in your environment. So that's going to be a really cool one. Also, I'm going to throw the form in now to the chat so that we have it. And let's put that in here. So please let me know if there's anything wrong with this form, or if I put you to the incorrect form. You can feel free to shout at me in the chat. I'm going to hop in here, and we're going to both come up to the screen, and there we go. So we're going to stick around here for a sec and just see if we have any questions in the chat and answer them. Looks like we've been answering them well so far. Stevie, I know you Okay, I'm gonna put the outro up, man, because there's really no point in doing that then. Okay, cool. Which one is the outro? Is it this one? a little bit. I do like that aspect of it. We can do it from Restream itself as well.